Hey guys, I just wanted to give an update. So I was doing really well with my kratom use. I was only using every other day. And then I did start the IOP. I'm going Monday, Wednesday, Friday from either 6 to 8 or 6 to 9, depending on how many people show up. I really like the group facilitator. She's a very organized, practical recovery coach who is giving us tools to work on. So I'm slowly implementing healthy behavior and coping tools, but I used kratom for the last 3 days in a row because what I'm realizing is I am not resourced in regards to being a caregiver for Eric. And it's really hard with his disease because sometimes he on a good day it's like he's not even sick at all, and then on a bad day he's like asking what neighborhood we live in, and he's like really grumpy and agitated and just like grumpy old man and resistant and defensive. And so I need more coping skills in regards to how to cope with being a caregiver, because obviously I can't turn to him for the support that I need, especially when he's having a bad day. And I think that I might have some denial going on about his deterioration. But it's just really hard for me because it's so inconsistent, his illness, the good days, the bad days, and how it affects his memory and cognition and ability to communicate. And I don't want to be an enabler, so it's like I'm always struggling to know whether or not I'm enabling him or helping him, and it's nothing that I've ever navigated. So I was so overwhelmed this morning because Eric is not doing very well cognitively or with memory or like taking care of himself lately, and I do think that it's a result of his illness. I don't think that it's because he's lazy. It's just like the memory. He forgets the agreements that we make, and I try to use tools and sticky notes, but it's like I start to feel like his parent, and it really puts a damper on our sex life and me feeling like his partner. So anyway, I was really overwhelmed this morning and just grieving because it's like I'm losing little pieces of him as time goes on. And my friend was like, is there anything I can do to help? And I said, well, honestly, if you want to Google some resources for caregiver support, I'd really appreciate it, because at that time I didn't even feel capable of using Google because I was so overwhelmed thinking about applying for disability again. This would be the third time after he's been rejected. I was feeling overwhelmed about doing the power of attorney. I was overwhelmed, and so I called the crisis line for caregivers. I didn't know that there was one, and the woman gave me a link to an organization called wellspouse.org, and so I'm hoping that is going to get me connected with some sort of support group for partners and spouses of people who have illness, as opposed to being part of a support group where it's like me and the children of people who have Alzheimer's and dementia, because the issues are different with a spouse as opposed to like with a parent. So I'm gonna wake up again tomorrow, and I'm gonna try to be sober, and I'm gonna try to implement my tools, and I'm gonna try not to feel deficient for needing so much help, because I do. Like, I tell myself, why shouldn't I be able to handle this? Why can't I hack this? Why? And it's like, the truth is, like, I need a lot more help. I need a lot more support now for the caregiver thing. It's just really, really, really hard to navigate. Really hard to navigate. And I think one of the reasons why it's more difficult for me is because as someone on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, I learn from watching. So, like, I learned a lot about social situations by watching movies and documentaries and seeing how people acted. And it's like, I don't know how to act as a caregiver. And people say, oh, there's no rules. But you don't understand, like, with autism, there are rules. And they give me guidelines on how to act. And then that then affects how I feel. And I just feel alone in dealing with it. And I have gone to caregiver support groups, but I haven't really found any good ones that are much more than a bitch fest about just like complaining and I want support and tools. I don't necessarily just want to complain. Of course I want people to share their emotions, but I like want a solution. Like, I want to know a little bit more of what to expect with his illness, cirrhosis, hepatic encephalopathy. And I can't find many resources on HE, which is the most detrimental part of his illness, because that's what affects his brain. He gets too much ammonia on his brain, and then on a bad day, the symptoms manifest as if he has dementia. And I try to talk to him about it, and he'll get defensive. And it's like I'm noticing that I am taking his illness personal. So, like, he and I will be in the middle of a conversation, he'll get distracted, he'll say, oh, can we talk about this later? And then he never mentions it again. And I interpret it as he doesn't care, which I know is inaccurate, but that's what the emotional response is. Like, the logical response is that, of course he cares, he just forgets. But my emotional response is that he forgot, he doesn't care about me. And so I need to work on separating the illness from Eric, which I've been aware of, but I just don't know how to do that per se. So I got some references from the caregiver crisis support line. I even felt so guilty for calling. Like, I was so distraught this morning that the only thing that could come to my mind was I need help. I need help. And I've realized that I need help with addiction, so I sought that out, and I'm in the IOP. I'm not using heroin. That is imperative. As much as I want to, I can't do that. And so in regards to the caregiver thing, I need help knowing how to navigate that, because I can't go to Eric to support me during that. It's very rare that he can, when we're talking about his illness, it's very rare that he can show up from a place of empathy and say, I know how hard this is on you, or thank you, or, he just doesn't do that, because he goes into his shame, which causes him to be defensive. And then it's I just wish that he could be open with me more about this process and be a little softer and have a little more humility, but I cannot force him to die my death, right? I understand this process that we're going through could be very connecting, and we could bond in it, but if that's not what's happening, that's just not what's happening, and I have to accept that, because if he has resistance and denial and defensiveness, well, then that's his to have. So shit kind of sucks right now just because of that. I don't feel equipped to deal with it sober entirely right now. So I'm just hoping that I'm going to find some help with this organization. And one of the things that I liked about the AA meetings was I would go to the AA meetings during the day that were at churches, and I would go to those because most of the time the people who would be there would be these old ladies. They're 70 and 80, and I could talk to them about their experience losing their husband, because a lot of them did. And there was one time I went to this meeting and I shared a little bit about where I was and how I was struggling and dealing with being a caregiver, and that I was noticing resentment. And she came to me after the meeting and she was like, I lost my husband to Alzheimer's, and I ended up getting really mean to him at the end. I got so mean. And just her saying that and like relating to me made me feel like, okay, these reactions that I'm having, well, I don't want to have them because they're harmful, like being mean or having resentment. It's normal, and I'm open to like learning a different way, but anyway, it's just really hard, and there's not those meetings right now, so I need to find a new creative way to get resourced. And just the memory issues really affect us, and the fact that Eric doesn't use his tools, it's like I'm finding that on a bad day I have to care for his very basic needs, like, have you eaten? And after asking him for 6 months, have you eaten, have you eaten, have you eaten, and a lot of times he hasn't, and then his sugar crashes, and then he's just a wreck the whole day. It's like I keep telling him, well, have you set a reminder, have you set a reminder? And it's like he can't even remember to set a reminder on a lot of days. And this is where I feel like, am I enabling him? Like, who can't take care of themselves on this very basic level? But I think that's where my denial comes into part, because what I've learned is that he can't a lot of the time. So yeah, I'm still trying to get resourced. I have a recovery coach, and for the very first time I'm being completely honest with her about everything. Like, she's not associated with 12-step, so she's not shaming me. She is a harm reductionist. Obviously, I have a goal of absolute abstinence, and I'm trying to find my way on how to do that while getting resourced and finding new ways to cope. So I'm just so thankful that I can be honest with her, because it's just so helpful, and yeah, so that's where I am. I'm struggling, but I'm not going to use heroin. I'm just going to wake up tomorrow and try again, and I'm going to contact these nonprofits that are resources for people who are caregivers. So yeah, I hope you all are doing well. Be gentle with yourself. I'll try to be gentle with myself, and I'd love to hear how you're doing in the comments. Bye.